Well, first off, start off by saying thanks for went through a whole season together. We made it. We're hanging. Uh, wasn't always what exactly you guys had hoped it would be. You tried really hard. You gave us good effort. At times, some of you stepped out of line a little bit. We need to be reprimanded, and just like everybody else. But you fought hard, and I appreciate it. So, thanks a lot. It has been a long year, and these are always, excuse me, long, arduous challenges, and so much happens. You guys have documented all of the stories and all of the things that have gone by, and it ends so suddenly as that it's hard to respond properly because it's so abrupt. Because you're planning on continuing, and then all of a sudden you can't, and it's an amazing turnaround that you go through, players and coaches and fans and everyone. But we have to deal with it, and so we went right to it. First in the locker room after the game, and then again Sunday, which was our Tell the Truth Monday, to really get at the stuff that we could take away at this early time and know where we are and set our course for going forward. And so I want to share a couple things with you. Coming out of the locker room, in the locker room after the game, it just was so obvious to me that we had a season that kind of looked like the game again, and there was the inability to be consistently on it throughout the game, where we saw that we had tremendous opportunity and we had chances to do some great things, and then they got away, and then we had our opportunity to come back, and then we didn't quite get it finished. It felt like the season in a sense, and so the line of the consistency that we need to play at the top level of this game was just eluded us a bit, and we saw the great glimpse in the Detroit game of exactly how we want to play, precisely how it's supposed to look, firing on all cylinders, and then we needed to carry that to the next week, and then we ran into a buzzsaw, and weren't able to get those guys, and by the time we walked out of that locker room, the guys were, because of the year that it's been and the things that we've gone through and the things that we overcame, the connection of the players is unbelievably tight, and as much so as any team that we've had in the time we've been here. And I wanted to make sure that we were all clear about that, so that we could take that connection and the efforts that we made to get there as we stepped into the beginning of this next season, which we already have stepped into that and going, and here we are. We're already into offseason, and because we have places to go and things to do and a lot of work ahead of us, and a lot of great challenges that we need to overcome based on the character, based on the connection, based on the love that they have for one another, and I think we're in the middle of something really special. So I continue to feel like that, and that's because that's how they are and it's how they have responded. The appreciation for one another was amazing, and it was emotional and all that. As we knew, we didn't get what we wanted done, but we got a lot of work to do, and so that's how we kind of entered this offseason. We're going about it with it's time to get after it again and to compete in every way and to build up and get stronger and faster, to make sure that we bring back the best version of ourselves when we come back to go at this in April when we start it up. And that's what everybody's resolved to do. John and I we're shoulder to shoulder on this thing and taking our guys with us. We've got some staff things that are coming up. We got guys trying to get our coaches, and that's going to happen some. But as we get through that, and we really kick into this draft and what's coming up and the evaluations from this season, we're going for it. And so we're really pumped up about that. And I guess the juice from the season hasn't quite gone away yet. I know that the sleep deprivation hasn't quite gone away yet, and we're still battling. So I can't tell you how excited I am about going forward. And when we look at this team, the young guys that have a chance to come up and add to it, the ones that showed us stuff and the ones that almost got a chance to show us stuff, we're going to get so much better that to think otherwise would be crazy. I think we have a great chance to put together a terrific squad. And we've got issues that we'll address, and you guys will ask some questions about, but, kind of bring it on is kind of what it feels like. So we're really looking forward to it going in. So that's kind of how it feels. Go ahead. What do you got?
When you say best versions of ourselves that you want to bring back, did you see, was that lacking at points this season?
I think there was a couple outbursts that we had that we've documented well that really took us to a place we don't want to be. We don't want to be part of it, and the emotional side of it brought out some of the expressions, took us to a place that was a distraction that we had to get through, and we did. We did deal with it and got through it better, I think, on the inside than on the outside for those watching. We were able to directly go at stuff, and it actually, we grew from it. And so sometimes the setbacks can allow you to grow, and they did. But we don't need those distractions. It's hard enough. It's hard enough to get it done when everybody, is in lockstep and all of that. So, again, we get it. We know what happened. We dealt with it, and when it was time to reprimand, we did. When we had to take action, we did. But even in the last game, there was times it didn't look like it needs to look, and we were off with our focus at times. And so we addressed that in here on Sunday, and clearly it's not where we want to be representing who we are and what we're all about. And so we got to do better at that.
Talk about the connection between players, and Doug talked a little bit about that yesterday and how it felt and all that. What do you look for to know when that's right with your team?
Well, I think when the guys are really demonstrating that they're here to serve the others, and it's about service to the others, and that's really when you know your team is right. When guys will do whatever they got to do to help the guy right next to them, and they believe in that. That's the right way to go, and so they think and they act in that. But sometimes when you see us act other than that, it looks like it's the individual doing all the talking and speaking and all that. That's when we're not right. But that doesn't mean everybody's not right. It means the individual isn't, and so that's why you see the wonderful expression of guys bringing guys back together, because they know. And rule number one is always protect the team around here. And well, sometimes you got to help other guys do that as well. And that's kind of what that's all about.
Because you have so many kind of core guys who have been together now for so long and been with you guys for so long, is there any concern about that becoming stale with so many guys kind of?
I think that every year. Yeah, I think that, as you come back every year, everybody's going to change a little bit between, last year and this year coming up. And as coaches, we have to anticipate that guys are going to be a little bit different. And we need to see that happen, and so that we can make sure that we know what we got. The new players that add to the team are going to bring an element that will bring another dynamic. We need to maintain the competition. That's really what feeds this is being competitive. John continuing to fill the roster with guys that can battle and push. Competition pushes a lot of that stuff to the side, and that's what we've always stood for. I got to make sure that the guys feel it. I mentioned to them that there's going to be a whole slew of guys coming into this team, just like there was last year. And if you want to hold your spot, you better get right. You better work out and get strong and get fast and be ready for the challenges that other guys bring, because we're going to give them an opportunity. And so it's where the theme of competition is so crucial that it drives you beyond that kind of maybe complacency. I haven't seen these guys like that at all. We have such good leadership, and the guys stand for exactly the right stuff, and they're willing to put it out there and put it on the field. But I'm always concerned about that. Yeah, I'm always looking. I don't want. It's human nature. That's the natural way to go. We can't be like that. We got to be beyond that.
You talked about not being able to get that consistency you wanted to see throughout the year. Were the injuries the biggest factor in not getting that?
Yeah, they were. It would just start with the QB, and Thomas. I think those two are just so obvious, and you can see how fast Russell can run and what he can do, and you saw him for not even half of the schedule where he was had that kind of freedom. And Thomas was banged up the whole time, and it was hard for him to overcome it and get through it. We saw what he's like when he's right, and we were counting on Thomas being at that point when he returned, and unfortunately he broke his leg in the Rams game, and differently than the other injury. So my hat's off to Thomas. How much more difficult can it be for a guy trying to get back and help his team? He finally gets back after all of the rigors of returning, and then he gets hurt again, and here he goes again. He's right back in it again. So that's why it took him a while to get back. And when we did see him, you saw the player that we love, and we missed him during the year. And where CJ might have had a chance to give us the spark, as we saw him return, I mentioned today, I think when I was talking to the guys, the big game he had against New England, one of the best teams in football, and the impact he played. And he comes right back the next game and he goes 70-something yards with a touchdown. How many things is he going to do beyond that during the rest of the season? We missed those guys, and that's just part of it. That's what happens during the season. That's why some teams are able to keep rolling. And we didn't have the consistency that we could latch on to when we wanted to finish. So we tried to make a lot out of the fact that we returned to such a complete game against Detroit, and hoping we could build off of that. And we needed that same game to show up, and the Falcons weren't having it. They did a great job to not let that happen for us. But I do think that consistency is really the issue, and that comes from continuity and staying the same and growing and all of that.
Pete, how much concern do you have about the durability of Thomas and CJ? CJ had 4 different injuries this year. Thomas is
I can't tell you that I'm not concerned about CJ. He had trouble through the offseason. He was unavailable to us throughout, and there were a groin and a hammy, and then his wrist, and then the scapular thing he had. He has to show it. The interesting thing was he was very consistent at Notre Dame his last year there, and he rushed for 1,200 yards and caught some balls and all that. So we just got to find it, and it just seemed like it was a sequence of events. But he certainly is on it when he's right. So, and we would have had a shot this week to try and get him out there again. We'd have busted it to get it, and he would have had a really good chance to make it. So he was that close to returning. But there is a concern. Thomas, I don't know. He broke his leg. Guys fell on it. I don't know, but you can avoid that in the sense of being durable. The next injury might have been a product of it. I don't think so. He got crunched again. So, and it wasn't the same injury. It was different. So, I don't know. He's been pretty steady. Other than that.
You said this morning Richard had an MCL. Can you clarify exactly when that happened and how serious that was?
Yeah, whenever it never kept him from anything. He never missed anything. And just like Russell never missed, and Tyler. They all had them during the course of the season, and they just made it through it. And they never complained. They never missed. They didn't want to miss a practice, and they basically didn't miss anything. So, but they were legit. Those were legit injuries, and showed up in the whole thing. So, that's a challenge for any. The guys all over the league are going through the same thing. Our guys just happen to be doing it as well.
Why did you choose to reveal that about Richard now after the season?
Honestly, I didn't realize that we hadn't even revealed it. I mean, he had a. You can remember. I don't even remember what game it was. Somewhere in the middle. Yeah, I don't know. He was fine about it. That he didn't miss anything. But the same with Russell. He was fine about it. I don't know how they do that, but they did.
Why did that show up on the injury report?
I don't know. I'm feeling like I screwed that up with not telling you that because that happened, but he was okay. So I don't know. He never missed anything. I guess is probably why.
Why did you feel it was necessary to meet with Richard again on the outbursts?
I just wanted to make sure that we left on really good terms, and he was, that we talk a lot. I talk with him all the time, but I just wanted to make sure and touch base with him one more time. Probably because it was a difficult year for him, and the media thing was a big deal, and all of that. He made it through it, and it was hard.
Do you have any reaction to Michael's outburst in the locker room Saturday? Did you hear much about that?
Yeah, I didn't see it or any of that. I didn't know that it happened until afterwards. But I think that's just another example of not being poised, at the time. And I know Michael's a very remorseful guy when he makes his mistakes, and I haven't talked to him about it at all. I didn't know anything about it till today. But yeah, I don't even know what took place. I haven't even read the article. I just was told by Dave.
Being around these guys as much as you have the last few years, are you surprised by the outbursts and reactions that you've had with some of the guys this year?
I'm not necessarily surprised, but I'm disappointed, that we weren't able to control it, and the guys weren't able to keep it, inside. But our guys these guys have been very emotional players, and it's part of the thing that we like about them. But there's a point where you go too far, and our guys are working at it, figuring that out.
I think you were asked, the season seemed more volatile this morning. You were asked if the season seemed more volatile than usual, and you said yes, and you take responsibility for that. Can you elaborate on?
Yeah, I do because it's important for me to tap into these guys, their emotional side, and it becomes part of their play that when it fits the person, and that's how they operate. But sometimes, like I said, we make mistakes, and I need to do a better job of helping them head that off, and this is a game that calls for guys to play at the edge, and that's I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I think there's a mistake when we go too far.
I think there's a thought that you created a culture where players get to be themselves, and it's unique, and it really worked for you guys when you first got here. And I think there's a thought that maybe that's also responsible for some of the outbursts too when people are going over.
That's why I said I'm taking responsibility for it.
Pete, you had a very young and inexperienced offensive line this year. Do you feel like you saw enough from them this season to feel comfortable with that group moving into next season?
Yeah, I think we made a ton of progress, and knowing how much guys improve from one year to the next, and particularly the youngest guys improve the most, we have nothing but good things to think that will take place, and the guys are going to get better. We're going to work really hard in this offseason to make sure that we make that spot really competitive again. And we're not going to rest on anything or set back. We think we got it now. We'll continue to work, and there's opportunities, of course, in the draft and free agency and all of that we're open to and never turn away from any of those chances. But if nothing happened, these guys are coming back and they're going to get after it, and they're going to be farther along than they were. I mean, it couldn't be more obvious, So that's just a natural thing that's going to happen. We need that natural occurrence to take place and help us be better from the start.
When you look at the consistency issues with the offense, how much of it do you think stems from the inconsistency with the offensive line?
I think it's part of it. I think it's just one of the parts of it. You watched your quarterback not be, the guy that he can be for a long time, and it was hard on him. And we had to adapt to that and find out what he was able to do and what he could do, and we did. And as soon as he got back, he helped us, and we did better. And he helped his linemen, just like he helped the running game. Russell's a dynamic football player that has tremendous, impact on the game and on the guys that play around him. And I just think it's about as clear as it can get.
You got about 9 or 10 guys taking up a large part of your salary cap. Is it possible that maybe you're paying too few players too much money and not spreading?
Because you think they'd play better if we paid them more money?
Are you?
No, I think that's the way it's come out because the guys have been such impacting players. It's not about where the money's going. We got to make the right investments in the right as we move forward. I think we have a really cool formula going here, and I think we've demonstrated that. It's demonstrated a consistency over years that is pretty obvious. But this is a whole nother one. Here we go again. We got to keep going. Our roster is pretty well set right now. We're in pretty good shape. Money-wise, we're in good shape. We're solid. We know where we are. We're going to add a draft class to it and see how far those guys can take us again. I think you should be hopeful about the makeup of our team right now. We are. We certainly are. We got guys in a lot of great spots that are ready to go and healthy and ready to turn it on, and guys coming back off injuries that are going to impact us as well. So, but there's kind of a rolling transition to this, as it goes. There'll be some guys there's an attrition, the guys will leave. There's always difficult, tough decisions. John said that and echoed that for years. At the end of the year, there's big time decisions to be made and where we go and what we do. But you can only pay the young guys so much. They'll grow up and they'll get paid more as they go too and as they earn their right. I think we're in pretty strong position right now, and I think we got a chance to really be good again.
You feel like you need to put more finances towards the offensive line?
I don't think that way. That's not how we think. Okay, let's take money and put it here, and all of a sudden you're going to be better. You got to get guys that can play worthy of it, and then when they demonstrate that, then they get paid. And we've shown that we understand that, and we're committed to that mentality. I don't think you can just buy your way to it. We're not going to do that. We're not going to go out and spend a ton of money on free agency on one guy to try to save the day. That's not how we function at all. We're going to bring the young guys up, keep developing them, and make them be part of this program. And then as they go and they earn their opportunities, then we'll reward them as we can. And I hope that it's really clear that that's the way we've done this with a really clear intent. John has done a fantastic job of managing that, and we're in position to have another really good team coming back in another year. Not every team can say that, and we're proud of that. But we ain't satisfied. That's just where the starting point is as we embark on this next year coming up.
Did you hope or maybe even expect to get more out of this rookie class in terms of game playing and game action than you did?
Yeah, we expected, we hoped more for Quentin Jefferson. We thought he could be a factor, and he looked really good when we got started and banged up, and we didn't get much out of him play-wise. CJ for certain, it was obvious. I think Nick Vanette's going to be a big factor. He just we had a real nice 3-man rotation there that was hard for Nick to break in, but he's going to be battling. He'll be way into the competition even more so. I think he can be a big factor. Fetty and Jaron, those guys did terrific for their first years. It's a pretty darn good group, and we'll see if we can add that many good guys again that can affect the roster. Hopefully we'll keep them healthy and they'll be able to contribute throughout. But I think that's kind of what you're looking for in a draft class, guys that can pull out those kinds of contributions and all.
How do you feel about Jimmy Graham's season and kind of where he fits into things into the future?
I thought Jimmy had a terrific year. I thought he was explosive. He was dynamic. He blocked like he's never blocked before. He became a factor on the perimeter blocking stuff, and he's a highlight film. I mean, he's got so many big plays that he made during the year. Every receiver could always catch more balls. They always could, except for Anthony Brown or some of those guys. Antonio Brown, those guys. He caught about as many as you can catch. But I think he's. I'm excited for him to come back. Imagine how much better he'll feel. Look what he had to undergo last offseason to get back and to be in the phenomenal shape that he was. This will allow him to come back again. He should be stronger this year and more fit this year. He's got a great work ethic about him. He's naturally built and physiqued and all that. I think nothing but really cool stuff for us as we go forward.
Do you feel that he was content with how he was used this year?
No, I don't think any of our receivers were. Ask Doug. He didn't intend. They want the ball more. That's exactly where you expect him to be, I don't want him ever to be content.
Follow up on Danny's question about the rookies, just with those guys getting healthier and just the natural progression from year 1 to year 2, how excited are you about what that group can bring next year?
There was a number of those guys that weren't able to contribute because of the injuries that I think all have a role, all have an opportunity. So you haven't seen much from Kenny Lawler. Kenny Lawler was a really good impacting player on the practice squad this year. He's part of that class as well. So it's a really good group of guys. So I think they're going to have a chance to be a big factor. And knowing that the natural growth from year 1 to year 2 should really help us.
With Jimmy Graham, he's obviously going into the final year of his deal. Would you like to get something done more long-term with him?
We're always looking at all of those. We know that they're in there last year too. We know how that's going, and those conversations come up when we can get to them. And know that I'm glad you reminded us, but John's on that.
With Deshaun's injury, how do you approach the other starting corner spot next to him?
Yeah, that's a significant injury, and for a guy out there on the edge, to have your legs, man, you got to have them, and so. It's going to be all the way till next season before he really gets to start seeing how far along he is and if he can come back. So we have to think we got to pull from the ranks of the guys and see how they do. I thought DeAndre Elliott did a nice job in the bits that he played. Nico did some nice stuff for us too. There's a couple other guys there on the roster that have looked good and looked competitive. But we're going to have to do a really good job of coaching in the case that that Deshaun doesn't make it back ready to go. I thought he had a very, very good year, was challenged a ton. Being on this other side of Sherm can wear anybody out, and he hung in there tough throughout the season. Made a considerable amount of plays and all that. He's a terrific team guy. So if he's not available, we're going to really miss him, but we got to go for it with the other guys. And obviously it'd be a chance to address that in the draft too, and there'll be plenty of chances. But right now we're excited about some of the guys coming up.
Was there more damage than just the ACL?
It was a significant knee. It was there's some other stuff, some other things that did go on, yeah, but I can't tell you the specifics of it. But it was a significant ACL injury with some of the other things that normally happen. Yeah.
Is there any concern, Earl Thomas and Tyler Lockett, but whether they will be available for the start of next season?
They should make it now. They really the docs say that they're going to make it. Just going to take a few months here in the off season. Tyler's has really jumped in the early stages of returning. So both those guys are phenomenal athletes and great competitive guys about doing stuff. They have to do their work, of course, but it's a little different. It's once the bone is healed, and they're in pretty good shape. So it's not like ligaments and all the rest of the stuff that have to be reestablished. And so they have a really good chance of returning. Yes.
From a recent Sports Illustrated interview with Richard, he was asked if part of his inner conflict was about being half Compton and half Stanford, and Richard kind of agreed. And I'm wondering, even though you can't summarize one personality in one sentence, in your experience, is there some validity to that?
Well, I would say that Richard's an extraordinary young man, and he has done a tremendous job of through the educational process. At high school, he was a really good student. He was a dynamic kid around the campus there in high school, and at Dominguez. The fact that he got a chance to go to Stanford and then cash in on a great education there, and he has never forgotten where he grew up and where he came from, and he's been very respectful of that. I think he's a very intriguing young man, and I think you guys have all figured that out, and So I don't know. I can't put it in a sentence either, but I think he's an extraordinary guy, and I have great respect for him in all that he does and is attempting to do, and the man that he's growing up to be. And I think he's going to be a significant factor moving forward. I think he's really something.
From a team chemistry,
And he's learning all the way, and he's still learning, and he knows that.
sorry. From a team's chemistry standpoint, how tricky is Cam Chancellor's contract situation? Having Bennett just got his, and he's as a tenured guy.
I think every case is an individual case, and we're on it, and we love Cam. He is a significant part of everything that goes on around here. I was so proud of him when we were done the other night for all the leadership that he had brought us in such a magnificent way, coming out of whatever happened last year, and to turn things around and really be all in and just the epitome of what leadership is all about. But we're considering it's the same. We know what's going on, and we're involved with all that stuff.
How did he play this season? Cam, how do you feel like he played this season?
Oh, he had a really solid year. Played really good football. The very few plays got away from him during the course of the year. I mean, he had a lot of good stuff happen. Was really physical throughout. He had his health. Once he had one little setback in there, but he had his health for the most part. Finished really strong. Thought he played terrific for us.
As this team has matured, how have you seen leadership from the players kind of change in that role versus you coaching a younger team?
Yeah, our guys have just grown. They've become connected in a way that they really are part of the whole mission of what we're about. And it's been easy to step back and let them, express themselves and put them in positions and opportunity to say what they think and where they're coming from. They've been marvelous, and it's not like I said. I don't know if I said on the radio or whatever. It's not just a couple guys that are named captains. There's a bunch of guys here that really stand for the right stuff. Bobby Wagner is an extraordinary leader. He's just a significant impacting player on people by the way he trains and what he stands for and the consistency that he brings and the toughness and the performance, all that. But it's more of the guy that he is. KJ's remarkable, and they all have their ways of doing it. That is really, I love this team. I love what they stand for and the opportunities that they present with us because of the way they lead.
From a broader perspective, you guys have used a lot of first-round and high-end draft choices on offensive linemen in your 7 years, and it seems like each year there's kind of a reshuffling of the deck. What's been the biggest obstacle in getting some continuity up front?
It's a good question. Remember, somebody has said that a few years ago we had one of the highest paid offensive lines. I don't know if we were the highest paid, but we've been through that whole transition, of guys, and that can't just keep happening. It can't keep going. So you have to make some adjustments, which we did, and we're working our way back. It has been a challenge, though, that there has been changes, and it just has happened like for the reasons that it does. Money gets too high, you can't afford to keep a guy because you don't have room to do it. You have young guys coming up to take guys' spots. You can see the future through the young guys. There's all kinds of reasons. We've kind of been through it all. I don't think we're in that mode right now. I think we have a chance now to. This is maybe one of the 2 or 3 years out of the 7 or 8 that we've had a chance to come back with kind of the same group and have a chance to build with that. We're going to try to, but we're going to challenge the heck out of those guys too. We're not going to just be satisfied with it, like I said. So it's been a good challenge though, and we're working at it.
You were going into training camp hoping Gary'd start on the left side. Jamarcus Webb didn't work out for you. You end up with George starting at the left side throughout the second half of the year. How far off plan did the offensive line kind of move for you this year? When you look back on
Well, George made a big difference. We had no idea what we had there. We were just hoping, and he made a big impact on us. Bradley Sal helped us, early on when we needed, and then as things became the opportunity to be competitive on the other side, we took a shot at that one. We're just trying to get better, and we're going to continue to. If we got to make some moves, we will. But we would like to see continuity as be really important. I can't say it's the ultimate thing that's important because we want to get really skilled and we want to get really tough and we want to get smart. Continuity is a factor in there. We'll see if that's the issue. It was. We didn't know it was going to happen the way it did because we didn't know what George was going to bring.
Do you still see Jermaine Ifedi's future at right tackle, and how do you think he played in his rookie season?
Right guard? Or you asked me about right tackle?
When you drafted him, I know you thought he could be a right tackle. So.
We thought he could, yeah. I was really excited about him being a right guard. He had done that in his history, and we'd seen that on film, and he was really a stud at it. He has the ability to play both spots, and But in the effort, in the spirit of continuity, I think he would bank more if we can keep him in the same spot at right guard. But we'll see. We're going to be open to whatever we need to do to keep moving forward.
Stephen Hauska, a free agent, how did you feel, I guess, his year and maybe future with the team?
Yeah, unfortunately, he had gotten a little stink with the kicking extra points, and he added up on him. I was really, really excited that he finished the season on a good note and he hit everything that he had a chance to hit because he knew he was up against it. He knew he needed to show that. I wish it would have happened a few weeks earlier just so that he could have had more weeks to bank on that. But Hausch is a really good kicker that got in a little bit of a rut with the extra points, and he's come through for us a lot of times and been a big play guy for us. So, but I outwardly commended him about showing that he was back and that he was on it, by the way he finished. I thought that was pretty good.
Pete, there are some teams that do great things for a few years and they're able to sustain them, and then ultimately some refer to that as a dynasty. There's other teams that do great things for a few years and then they just kind of fade away. What are the attributes? What other
kind of teams are there?
I'm sure you've seen them.
There's
both,
teams
right?
that never ever do anything. Yeah, okay. All right, go ahead.
Yeah. You guys
There's
seem
more
to,
than those two categories. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So you guys seem to be teetering on an ability to have a dynasty. So assuming that you've kind of thought that through in your mind, what attributes does your team have that could lend itself to have that type of long-time success, and what attributes are you trying to acquire?
You could have taken that and gone the other way. I really appreciate that. You could have said the other alternative, and you're on your way in the stinkhole. No, I appreciate that. No, I got you. We do have the opportunity. We have the opportunity to be a really good team over a long period of time, and I don't know how, like I always say, I don't know how many years that is or how long that takes or what you have to do to prove that, but we're close. And we were close again this year, and save a couple situations. I think we're right in the middle of it again, and we have a good defense, we have a good quarterback, and we have this elements to build around all of that to make those guys good. And we have to continue to build that, and we can stay. We're living with an approach and a philosophy that I continue to see as a successful way to go about it, which is balance in the offense, big time defense, and special teams emphasis that gives us a chance, and. But I'm open to see how players that come to us, coaches that are involved with us, if there's ways to get better and to adjust that, I'm not going to stop. I'm not stuck in the mud about that we have to do it that way. That's just the best way that there's ever been to prove it. And so we're riding that too. I think we can continue to do that. I don't like the way it's split pass and run this year. That's not the way we want to be. But if we did that and we could control it and can take care of the football and still, and do the clock and the third downs and all the things you need to do to be successful, I can be. There's teams that do that, However, for long, sustained success in this game of football, I think the way we're doing it gives us the best chance. And I'm pretty much proven it. I'm convinced. I've watched it enough years. I'm talking 15 or 16 years now, and I think that's a pretty good way to keep going. We're going to keep trying to build towards that. And that gives us a chance to always be available for the moments and the opportunities. That's what we need to do. Be available for it. Win that dang division. Give us our chance in the playoffs to be at home. We missed our chance to have the second game at home. How valuable is that? How valuable is that to us? We missed that opportunity. And that was, of all of the things during the season, that's not being able to do that might have been the most significant thing that happened. We couldn't get the second home game here, And so that gives you your best chance. So I think, again, we're going to be poised to have a great run at it, and we have a chance to be a great team. And I would think if people look at us, as you see our roster come back, the outsiders are going to look at it and see that again. And so we're called upon to live up to that and beyond. And so that's why I'm excited again. I don't know how old I have to get really excited, but it doesn't matter. I'm fired up as ever and can't wait to get started again. I wish we could get started. I know that sounds stupid. You can't imagine after 6 straight months of football, but I wish we could crank it up and get going again.
Acknowledging that you have
I don't think that's stupid. I don't have to say that. That is stupid. It might be a little bit overzealous, but okay.
What positions do you anticipate the most competition in for coming into the next year?
Well, I think the secondary looks like that right now. We got to get Earl back. We got to get the corner thing squared away. I think that's one of them. And we'll certainly be looking at that in the draft. That'll be one of the areas. We need to get. We need some youth at the linebacker spot now. We need. Bobby and KJ played thousands of plays this year between the two of them, and were extremely successful. But but we need to address that. We didn't get anybody that really made a difference in the last couple of years that can really fight to take their guys' job. Think if somebody can battle KJ and Bobby for their starting time. Well, that's what we need to draft towards, and so we'll be looking there. The offensive line will continue to be an area of focus. It will be, so. We're looking at everything, but I'm trying to give you guys something so you can walk out of here with it. That's kind of probably the obvious focal points.
What's Tom Cable's future as far as his?
I can tell you that he interviewed, and that took place yesterday, and he's waiting to hear. I think he has a real chance, and so I'm rooting for him, of course, and then we'll root against him as soon as he gets it, if he gets it.
Did the rest of the staff back next year?
Yes, best we can do.
Did Russell's injuries at all change your thought on what you needed a backup quarterback spot this season? I mean, the fact that,
That's a good question, because we were had to address that. And Trayvon did a really nice job for us in giving us, the kind of spark that we wanted out of that spot. If you're going to have a brand new young guy that's never played, we wanted a guy that can move it, and he does that. But we'll continue to look, because the reality was right there, and was that close to being, you're down to your backup guy with nobody else on the roster, that's ready to go. So we were all over it. Really thankfully, I thought Boyd did a good job for us, and gave us the confidence that we could hang in there. And you get used to being in a 2-quarterback system. That's for years that wasn't the way you go. You go with 3 guys, and it helps you on the roster and all of that. But we'll always look at that again, every year. And we're always looking for quarterbacks in every draft and every offseason. So that's just something we've always consistently tried to do.
What did Gary show you over the final month of the season?
He played well. He the more he played, the better he played. He played with more consistency, more aggressively, I thought, as he got on. You remember he came off a knee thing last year too, and it took him a while to get back to full go. But I thought he finished well.
You said in your opening that there's some issues with the team. What do you see those to be? What's your opinion of where you need some work on the roster and so forth?
I just talked about that.
I want to go back to something you said at the start about there's kind of a lull now, the season's over. We asked players, what is it like when the season ends quickly? What's it like for coaches, for you? Do you go through a period where loneliness of not having the players around, or?
Yeah, you might be surprised. It's the energetic level that it takes to do this for the players and for the coaches and myself, to just continue to endure and just keep going and keep marching and charging forward. All of a sudden, the requirements kind of drop off the map, and also what am I doing with all this juice and this energy that I've been working on maintaining for all this time? Players too, and so it's a shock to our system almost. A lot of guys get sick, a lot of guys get cold and stuff, colds and all kinds of things. The flu hits them, and all their immunity's kind of let down or something. Their systems don't function as well. It's a shock, and it's 6 months of battling. So there's some kind of a syndrome in there. I don't know what you want to call it, but it's something that we have to deal with, and it's real. It's a very real thing. I can't sleep, and I still can't sleep. I'm waking up thinking of what I should be thinking of. So it's just the way it is. So
If you could do anything different this last year, anything you would have done differently?
I think I would have told Russell to duck a couple of times, and eat it a little bit earlier. I guess really it's just regretting a little bit about not being able to keep guys safer. I just wish I could have found a way to help these guys make it through it, so they wouldn't have had to feel the burden of the injuries. Because that's the heartbreaker for us. These guys don't get. It's not so much that we lose them so we can't win. They don't get to play. These guys love this game, and it's everything in the world to them. And for them to miss out on these opportunities, that breaks your heart. And Thomas's challenge and Jimmy's challenge. To see that through the offseason, and then Jimmy makes it back and Thomas makes it back was so rewarding. Because they get the game that they love, and then it gets taken away again. That's a heartbreaker. And so I wish I could know how to do that where that wouldn't be part of it.
Yesterday about wanting to let the game come to him a little bit more
Yeah.
in terms of his running. What does that mean to you?
He was really it's just the same thing we talk about trying too hard. Trying to force the issue, try to make things happen, and try to make a run be a big run when it's a 4-yard play. And in that sometimes you make mistakes and you make bad judgments and you see things that aren't there, and you're kind of seeing ghosts and stuff. And so he wasn't as patient as he needed to be, and he's not a very patient person. he's a charger and he's a goer and he's a mad dog. And so just quelling that. And that also that desire to prove that he was back. He didn't need to do it all in one play. We talked about that a lot, but you could still see it in him. And so it took him quite a while because it burdened him to have the injuries that he had, to not be able to impact his team like he wanted to. So he just overtried, I think, is really what he's saying. That's relaxing, quieting down your feet, and being more patient, and which is exactly what he showed us.
You said that
You guys were rolling, man.
the most significant blow was not
You
getting
guys got
that.
nothing to do after you go home either, right?
You said the most significant blow of all the things that happened was not getting that home game, second home game. Are you referring specifically to that Arizona loss?
Well, there's a couple games in there. Any game during the season. That's just we had opportunities. There's the OT game. There's games during the season that you get any one of those. That's why every game is a championship game, because you don't know which one is the one that's going to make the factor for you. Any one of those games, and so. And then when you're down at the end, okay, now it's really obvious because you got 2 games left or 3 games left. But it's every one of them, and that's why the mentality calls for you to take every game with everything you got, and it's not one game's bigger than the next and all that stuff, because here it is. One win makes a difference. The tie, makes a difference. So.
Also going into year 6 next year already. Seems like it's happened like that. But what's the next step?
That is amazing. Yes, year 6.
What's
Really.
the next step in his development, in your opinion, just from what you see?
It will be just a continued comfort with what's going on. His sense for anticipation of stuff, just all of those things, just to feel. I think he'll feel the pocket better. I think he'll feel his receivers better. I think he'll feel the urgency more clearly. You just get better. Remember that we're comparing him to guys that have played for 11 and 12 and 13 years. We compare him to the best in the world because he's worthy of that. But look at them when they were 6 years old. Where were they doing? How many of those guys won so many games? How many of those guys were in the playoffs 5 times? How many, and how many? I don't know how many games he's won, but he's won probably as many as anybody's ever started playing the game. He's been in position to do a lot of stuff, and he's had a good team around him to do that, of course. But he's still got tons of growth. I don't know what was Aaron. When was Aaron's first year that he started?
Oh wait.
Oh, 8. Well, how many years was that into the league?
First, 05 was his first year.
So was that how many years?
4 years.
3 or 4 years before he even started, So, and look how remarkable a player he is. Well, and Tom's the same way. Look at the playoffs right now. Look at these quarterbacks that are playing. They're freaking off the charts, So that's all out there for him. He's going to get better. He's going to get a lot better, and it's just going to come naturally. And there's no way to get there, but just he needs the experiences, and he keeps doing it.
Anticipation, how much are you guys going to focus on kind of that part of the game?
We'll continue to, getting the ball out is a huge part of our game, and he's good at it, and he's really capable of it. That's when we're at our best protecting the passer, when our rhythm is so fast that the rushes and the complexities of the stunts and things aren't a factor, He's really good at it. So it's going to be thrilling to watch what happens in the next 3-4 years. Get him to year 8 or 9 and see where he's going to be,
Excuse me, back to what you told Matt a few minutes ago. Do you think that every week is a championship opportunity wavered? That thought wavered at all this year? Do you think
No, I know it didn't waver in emphasis, but sometimes that's the focus, the discipline it takes to focus week in and week out, so that you maximize your ops when that happens, because you don't know. That's why every game is crucial. It doesn't matter where you're playing, who you're playing, division, not division. They all matter, and I can't think any other way.
a challenge is it for veterans who've been to 5 straight postseasons to think that way rather than, well, we'll just turn it on when the postseason gets here?
That's not the guys we're coaching here. They don't think that way. They're not in that mindset. That mentality's not here.
Pete, statistically, Jermaine Kearse had a down year this year. What'd you see from him this season?
Well, I think there was a couple segments of the season in there when I know you guys were talking about it, and some numbers started to show up with targets and stuff. I don't know. I think he's a really good football player, and he's a really good contributor on our team. if I could point at something, we would have already addressed it. Just during the year, there just seemed like there were some things that got away, close calls, and he had some penalties too. It was a hard year for him, I think, in that regard. It wasn't as good as we've had, but he was busting his tail all year long, and he's a really good player, and I don't think he's lost anything. It's just the numbers didn't go that way, and so that's just this season. It's gone. It's already over.
How do you think Jeremy
games.
Lane played this year?
Jeremy, he played a lot of football this year. He was in the middle of it a lot. I thought he battled. I would always want him to tackle better. I thought he missed some chances in his tackling, but he competed his tail off. I thought he was in a lot of hot spots throughout the year. And when he had to jump outside, he did a nice job for us.
Over his last 4 games, Paul Richardson had, I think, 15 catches, 2 touchdowns, over 200 yards. How did you see him grow this year now that he's back healthy, and how does he kind of factor in?
Well, I think the really great part about Paulie is that he finally got his chance to play on a consistent basis, and he totally showed up. He came through. And so going into next year, we're just counting on him being a big factor. I think he was able to give us the same sparks that Tyler gave us, and we think the world of Tyler. So it's a good-looking group. He made some fantastic plays, so I'm glad that he knows that going into the offseason, and we know that going into the offseason, and we come back with the thought of this battling and seeing who's going to get more playtime, more opportunities, and all that kind of stuff. So he did a great job for himself and help us.
The highlight seemed to be the win in New England. What was most difficult to sustain? You guys did everything pretty well that game. What was hardest to sustain after that?
I don't know. You got to tell me, who did we play in the next game or something? Next couple games. Philly was pretty good. Then what was the next one? Tampa. The Tampa. Well, things happened that week going into Tampa that we were off a little bit. Remember Britt didn't start. Made a big difference to a young offensive line when he wasn't out there. Joey did a good job at center, but we weren't. The continuity wasn't there, and we throw up again. We score 9 points. So there was just some stuff, that happened. The New England game was a terrific challenge and a great game. We played that one really well, nip and tuck the whole way, and hung in there to the end and finished it, which was a good game for us to understand that we can go anywhere and win anywhere. Because not very many teams go in there and beat those guys. So that was a significant game, but. We didn't fall off. That game didn't make us play bad the next week because we won. Because I think we came back and played a pretty good game, and that's what's significant to me. Did we let that game affect the next one? I didn't think it did, and I don't think it affected anything after that. I wish it would have affected it more on the other side, though. To tell you the truth.
Pete, could you please address at least my listeners that keep bugging me for a change at offensive coordinator over and over again? Just those fans.
Yeah, but I don't think. I'm sorry to say this, but they don't know what they're talking about. Okay, sorry. They don't know what they're talking about. Daryl does a great job.
Besides the injuries, I guess you've mentioned, is there anybody else going into the offseason that's a concern or is going to have a surgery or anything like that? Or
let's see here. There's nothing really significant that we don't already know about. None of the guys, all of the veteran guys that have been with us really came out in pretty darn good shape. Michael and Cam and Bobby and KJ and Sherm's coming back. Russell will be, all those guys they came out pretty well. They're very fortunate, Britt, those guys. So we're going into the offseason in pretty good shape. We got to get Noe and Deshaun and Earl back for sure. But some of the young guys, they're ready to go already. They've been through their rehab, so they're going. So we're in pretty good shape going into the offseason.
Does Sherman have to have surgery?
No.
Luke Wilson's one of the most, prominent unrestricted guys coming back. Is he a guy you will
Yeah, we love what Luke contributes to this team now. He's been a very, very good Seahawk. He's been awesome to coach and to be part of it. So that's one of those deals we'd love to have him back. We did pursue that earlier and try to get something done. We weren't able to. So he knows that we want him, and we like to have him on our team.
Following up on you said Russell's pocket presence. I would think if he moves too much, that could be skittish. If he doesn't move enough, then he's not taking advantage of his extraordinary elusiveness. When you coach him, do you think he is in that regard? And when you say you want to work on his pocket presence, what do you mean?
I think he'll grow in that. I think he'll continue to understand what it feels like and what he can do and what he can't do to the nth degree. I think he'll be as good as you can get at that, and it takes a while. And I have really high hopes that he'll continue to be able to move and run around and do his stuff because he makes great plays happen, but that he'll also not move any more than he has to. And that's I think what we're really talking about on a consistent basis to an impeccable level. I think he can do all of that.
Anything else? Thank you.
See you guys. Thanks.